The air was still, but the north gate shifted open. The raven-carved keyring tilted, the smell of red wax still warm. Two widows asked for water. The riders demanded well papers. Night flared fire, the word "pike" cut out, and someone locked the gate from outside before leaving. If it were you, would you hang the keys back, put them away, or snap them? The north gate cracked a notch, the wind was calm. The hinge made no sound. The rope binding the latch slid aside, as if a finger had just pushed. On the wooden bar, a dark smear, half a fingernail wide. Not resin, wax. The raven keyring lay still on a wooden peg by the door. 5 iron keys, the color of ash. The wooden hook carved into a black raven, sharp beak, one eye missing a dot of paint. This morning it had been wiped once. A thin film of dust had already returned. Harlan sprinkled salt into coffee. A small pinch. The grains hit the cup's wall with a dry sound. He did not look at the cup. His eyes fixed on hoofprints pressed against the wind out in the yard. The marks were still sharp, edges not collapsed. Yesterday's wind blew from the south. Dust drifted north. This track turned north, but dust lay thick on the toe. Strange. He set the cup down, tin base clipping the wooden table once. The house stayed silent. No stove sound. No cat sound. The old photo on the wall tilted a degree, frame missing a corner. Light seeped through a roof seam, brushed across the chair's back. Harlan reached for the raven keys. The wooden hook was cool, a fresh scratch at the bird's neck. He hooked the whole ring on his index finger, tested its weight, heavy as always. 5 keys touched, rang faintly. One slipped half a thread from the cord. He pushed it back, set the ring on the peg again. It swayed. The raven's beak faced the yard, not the house like last night. Far off, a strip of dust crept from the desert edge, thin as a stretched thread. At first, no hoof sound, only the creak of the windmill. Then, nothing. The well yard baked under sun. Water trough dry, white earth bursting small holes. Harlan pulled on his coat, the hem stiff with old sweat salt. He stepped onto the porch. His right foot caught on the second step, wood grain split there. His hand brushed the raven hook again, as if counting in his head what lay under those keys. Powder cache in the shaft store. Iron chest on the porch. The trough had an old lock, round, teeth worn. The dust strip swelled. 2 canvas-topped wagons lurched into the well yard. Ropes rasped across hoops in steady creaks. The lead ox lowered its neck, foam of its eye chipped, more pale wood showing. The first wagon turned into the well's shade. Wheels scraped gravel, hissed, then stilled. The woman up front laid the pole down, leapt off the deck. Feet landed firm. Hem brushed her calves. Dust clung. Black hair braided neat, not a strand loose. Chin lifted. Black eyes held steady. Mara Finch. She did not say the name, yet she stopped 2 steps from the north gate, lips closed. Left hand spun a dark wood ring on her middle finger. The ring not polished, its face cut with a small V notch, deep as a bite mark. The second wagon rolled behind the first, space left for the ox to breathe, canvas darker, patched crosswise. From a flap a younger face peeked, like freckles on the cheeks, eyes the color of hazel. She hugged a cloth bag with both hands, strap looped at her right elbow, left fingers tapped on the strap. 3 quick beats, 1 slow. June lark. No wind, but dust hung. A rope dangled loose from the canvas hoop, frayed end, pale red as if wax stained. A pinhead wax fleck stuck to June's bag flap. She did not brush it. Harlan nodded, did not invite, did not wave away. He walked to the trough, the raven keys back in his hand. Key teeth caught light, iron clink sharp. He slid one into the lock groove, turned. The slot jammed. He turned back, shifted angle, pushed deeper, a faint plunk. The pipe quivered, nails screeched, then water crept out, thin but steady. Mara glanced at the keys. Eyes skipped the water, fixed on the raven's beak. She did not blink. Her hand slipped from the ring. The ring spun half round. The V-notch turned into her palm. She spoke low, flat. "Thank you." No lift, no drawl. June stood behind. She brushed her fingertip on her bag's flap. The rhythm slowed, 2 beats, stopped. Hazel eyes slid from the wooden hook down to the bent nail in the trough plank, landed on the scraped pea. The ox drank. Mud scent rose. The child from the rear wagon dipped fingers in, jerked back from the cold. The windmill behind spun once, thin, then snagged as if caught by a strand. Harlan did not ask where, did not ask why. He stood by the tank, shoulder shadow laid thin on the water. Eyes never left the hoof prints pressed against the wall. Plucked a strand, rolled it between thumb and finger, let it drop, fell without sound. "Far to find water," Mara said. Not a request, just a bare scrap of fact. Harlan nodded once. The coffee cup still sat on the table inside. Salt had drawn a pale ring across the dark surface. He did not go in. He looked past Mara's shoulder to the raven hook. The raven looked back. One painted eye gone, one not. The wheels outside still rolled, farther away. Not many. Only these 2 wagons had entered the yard. The thin strip of dust at the edge still hung like a thread. On the north gatepost, a small wax streak darkened under the sun, then gleamed like oil. Mara set the pail down, her left hand turning the ring again. The V-notch scraped skin, made a faint hiss. She looked toward the porch. There, under the chair, an iron chest lay on its side. Round rivets, old-style padlock, round lock, teeth worn, the very kind Harlan's keyring would open. Her eyes stopped on it for a blink, then moved on, did not look back. June tilted her head. She heard the steady flow of water, the breath of 3 oxen, the rope creak as it stretched in the sun. She stepped to the side trough, touched the lock groove with her fingertip as if testing the wear. She pulled back before Harlan could see. A black speck stained her finger. Resin? No, lock oil. Harlan shifted weight to his left leg. He picked up the bent nail from under the plank, tried bending it. The nail did not yield. Twisted by pliers, not by hand. He placed the piece back into the plank's split. It fit. He did not ask who. He simply did not hang the keyring back on the peg. He kept it in his palm. Heavy. The ranch cat, yellow, slipped from under the steps. Fur, ragged. It circled Harlan's legs once, left 2 strands of hair, then leapt onto the porch. Its tail brushed the raven hook, did not stir it. The cat looked at June, eyes half closed. June did not extend a hand. She let it sniff air. It did not come near. It slipped down, vanished. "Set the wagons off the store," Harlan said. Short, no explanation. He stepped back, gave way to the well's shade. Mara jerked her chin at the rear wagon. Wheels turned, pebbles flicked soft. The wagon backed at an angle, missed the water trench. June lifted the cloth bag fully, slung it on her left shoulder. The strap rasped dry across her collarbone. She leaned aside, avoiding the man's body. Her shirt carried a faint scent, not musk. A print shop smell. Work. Nails cut close, edges frayed. Across the back of her hand, a pale round scar, old, as from a ring larger than the one she wore now. Harlan slipped the Raven keys into his coat pocket for a moment. Deliberate. He wanted to see whose eyes would follow. Mara looked out to the yard, not to the pocket. June looked at his shadow on the water. The bulge rose at his pocket, then sank. She tapped the plank softly. 2 beats. Wind began to press. The dust strip at the edge split in 2. One strand slid off the old track, edging the sagebrush ridge. Harlan tilted his head to listen. No hoofbeats, only faint gravel shifting under wheels, somewhere farther. Water ran for a while, then slowed. Harlan turned the valve, heard metal grind against itself, harsh. The pipe in the ground shivered, sent a faint tremor up his legs. He paused, listening. In that pause, Mara's wooden ring tapped the pail with a dull clack. June stopped tapping. A moment later, the child in the rear wagon coughed. Dust in the throat. Mara turned back, gave it a wet cloth. She did not pat its back. She only held the cloth at its neck so it would not fall. The child stopped at once. It looked at Harlan over the canvas edge, eyes wide. Harlan turned away. His hand found the old post where the P had worn thin. His finger ran the groove, stopped at the crack. The feel was sharp. He pulled the keyring out again, hung it on the wooden peg by the door. Raven, straight, beak aimed into the house. He stood a beat. The shadow of the keyring swayed against the wall. Mara watched the sway. June did not. June studied the old lock on the trough, eyes narrowing. Round teeth, smooth old scratches circling. "Stay at the well," Harlan said. Not the porch, not harsh, not gentle. A voice rasped by sun. Mara nodded. She shifted the pail to the shade. The ring still turned. The V-notch scraped faintly, left a thin white line, then faded. She did not step past the yard's divide, a dark streak in the dirt from spilled water. June tied her bag tighter. The corner slipped open, a small waxed cord curling. She tucked it back, quick. Face steady. Fingers stopped tapping. Only her wrist rolled once, testing the strap's slack. The windmill spun one more round, then halted. Wind died. The hot scent of sun-baked iron drifted up. On the north gate beam, a sparrow perched a beat. Flake drifted. Caught on a web in the doorway's corner, this season's spiders strung low. Dust motes clung unmoving. Mara stood straight. June tilted. Neither spoke. Their shadows merged across cracked ground. A fissure split under June's boot toe, cut the leather in half. She lifted her foot, set it past, did not step on the line. The distant dust thinned to nothing. Only a few grains hung in sun glinting. On the wooden peg the raven keys stilled. Beak toward the house. The north gate stayed ajar. No creak, no wind. The silence stretched 1 beat longer, then broke with the ox's sigh. No one claimed it as theirs, only water, steel, and eyes. And a small wax spot on the gate bar that refused to dry. Harlan pointed out the camp spot. By the well, 3 posts from the granary. He pointed at exactly 3 great posts, old lime clinging at the tips. Not on the porch. His voice rasped, unwilling to repeat. Wheels scraped gravel, drew a long, even streak like measured by a ruler. Small stones snapped against the trough. Tick, tick. The lead ox lifted its head, nose wet. Its body rippled once with breath, skin pulled a thin wave, then stilled. The sun stood still, heat pressed down on the nape. No cloud, only a lone bird drew a line across the granary roof, then vanished behind sage. The granary's shadow hardened, wrapped the faded word, pike. Harlan glanced at the iron chest under the porch chair. The chest lay skewed, handle turned in, the round lock worn, the key groove glinting. A dot, fine as a pin. No one near it, only the yellow cat curled beneath the step, eyes half shut. Mara took the order with a chin jerk. She gripped the pole, angled the wagon into the well's shade. Her hand clamped the pole, knuckles raised. The dark wooden ring spun half a turn, V-notch inward. She touched no one, asked nothing. June climbed down after, arms around her cloth bag, strap carved a thin white line on skin, then gone. Her eyes swept the porch like glass, paused 1 beat at the chest, then turned away. Her finger tapped the strap, 3 quick, 1 slow. Strange, not the same rhythm as before. The tent went up quick. Stakes drove into dry earth with a knock, bounced once, then sank. Wooden mallet split a feather vein in its face. Canvas pulled tight, rattan ropes cinched, knots neat, no slack. They moved as if done many seasons. Children silent. Not from fear, from habit. The youngest sucked a wet cloth, eyes fixed on Mara's hand. Its eyes swept the scattered gravel from the wheel aside with her palm, revealed flat ground. She measured with her eye the space from jug to porch. 3 of her strides, 4 of a child's. She marked it in her head with a tap on the strap. Harlan carried the spare board to the trough. Heavy, old wood. He braced it, tested angle, listened for water running in the clay pipe, heard it, small but steady. He hauled the bucket to the well. Iron crank bit cold teeth into skin. Rope damp. 3 turns, then the bucket touched water with a faint bup. Bubbles broke. When he pulled it up, water fell in threads of light, catching sun. June stood an arm's length away. She did not reach for the bucket. She waited. When Harlan set it down, she tilted it to the side trough. Left hand on the handle, right under the base, thumb brushed a round rivet. The rivet warm against the rest, as if touched. She did not look at Harlan. She looked past his shoulder, at the shadow of the iron chest under the chair. The yellow cat shifted lazy, tail swept a thin line in dust. It sniffed the air, hissed low, not loud. Its head turned toward the porch, at the raven hook, holding the key ring. The ring hung still, beak aimed in. Harlan set a second bucket by the fire. He watched how June used her hand to wipe splashes off canvas. A small move, practiced. On her middle finger a dried red wax fleck, pinhead size. She did not brush it, She let it sink into skin. Mara ladled cornmeal into tin bowls. She gave the child first without looking. On her hand, an old cut rose when the skin stretched. The wooden ring spun a quarter turn, V-notch outward. The sun struck it once, flashed sharp as an eye, then died. Harlan climbed the porch. Each step remembered him, quivered faintly. He stood before the wooden peg. The raven key ring hung in place, beak inward. He lifted it off, weighed it, listened to iron touch iron. Thin, clean. He set it back on the peg. Hook snug, not loose. Raven straight. He brushed the beak, twisted a hair so it pointed closer to the wall. He stepped back, checked the angle. As he turned from the porch, a faint metallic sound rang behind. Not the keys swaying. This sound was not thin. It had an edge. The scrape of teeth catching a lock's groove, pulled out too fast. Harlan stopped. Did not turn yet. He looked at his shadow on the porch floor. The shadow shivered, not from wind. He counted 1 to 3, silent, then turned. The key ring still hung, but the key ring pupils tightened when sunlight struck metal. She turned away at once. The wooden ring spun 1 notch, V-notch, hiding back in her palm. The yellow cat's ears rose. It stared between the key ring and the iron chest. Its back rippled with fur waves. It growled low, as if hearing what humans could not. Harlan touched the raven's beak. It was warm, should not be. The wood hung in shade. Warm from another's hand. He wiped his thumb on his coat hem, smudged a faint red wax streak along the beak's edge. Thin line, 1 millimeter, ending where the painted eye had flaked. The yard stood still. A fly perched on the rim of the salted cup forgotten on the table by the door. It rubbed its legs. The cup untouched since morning. The salt ring thickened. Harlan put his fingers on the wooden peg, empty. He did not ask, did not breathe deep. He pulled his hand back as if pricked. His other hand pressed the table edge, veins raised sharp. He stepped down 1 stair, eyes locked on the chest. Second step, wood gave a dry knock. The yellow cat slid past his legs, vanished under the chest, then slipped out through a gap between box and chair leg. No one spoke. The children stopped whispering. The wind lay down as if a hand pressed it. The windmill ceased its moan. The cornmeal's boil softened, as if held in. Harlan lowered his head, looked into the dark, under the iron chest's edge. The chest did not move. Dust at its base showed no scratch. But the raven keyring lay exactly in the narrow gap between chest edge and porch step, beak pointed inward, not out, not like fallen, like placed. He slid 2 fingers in, pinched the wooden hook, the wood warm. At the beak's tip clung a red wax thread, pulled into fiber thin as silk. Its end caught at the chest's edge, stuck with a strange black grain. Not yard sand. Well sand was gray. This black dust was like soot. He lifted the key ring, heard iron teeth strike, sound muffled by the gap. 1 key bent a tooth, bent the way it had been pressed against iron. He did not turn. He held the ring open in his palm at hip height, displayed. Sunlight struck the bent tooth, threw a brief stripe across his shirt. The stripe trembled once, then died. Mara stood 2 steps from the porch. The cornmeal bowl in her hand tilted, barely. Its surface did not ripple. Her eyes fixed on the stripe that had just gone from Harlan's shirt, not the keys. The wooden ring, stilled, did not spin. June stood behind the wells, drew it thin, vague, hid it in his pocket seam. He straightened, stepped back once. His eyes left the keys for one beat, swept across Mara's face, then June's, stopped between, chose none. No one shifted. Sunlight altered hue a shade. The cornmeal's smell thickened. The windmill tried a notch, then failed. A drop from the pipe fell, struck Harlan's hand cool. He did not wipe it. He watched it spread, then evaporate. Silence stretched. Silence swallowed, until the child in the wagon canvas coughed once, by chance, like a pin pricked taut skin. Mara set the bowl down. Clean clack. She lifted her head. Eyes on Harlan. Not challenge, not plea, only eyes. The V-notch of her ring turned into the sun, flashed a second time. June pulled the tent rope tighter. Hand pressed the knot, not glancing porchward, but her shadow stretched, touched the first step. Its head stopped at the chair's edge where the keys lay, did not pass. Harlan turned, lifted the keyring, hung it back on the peg, light as laying a stone in a well's mouth. Metal touched wood with a dry whisper. His hand pressed the beak 1/2 beat, then withdrew. The north gate, still ajar 1 notch, unmoved. The wax streak on its bar partly dried, edges cracked like lips. The pause held, sat in the yard like an uninvited man, heavy, unmoving. Someone had used the keys. Someone had known the groove. And someone now held what opened the rest. No one said it. Only the raven keyring swung faintly, then stilled. Rider dust rose on the ridge, like a blade across sky. At first no sound, only black dots peeled from the horizon, swelled. Then hoofbeats. Iron struck dry ground, echoed back to the porch like knuckles on a table. Harlan stood angled in the yard, shoulder shading part of the well. His gray eyes blinked once, enough to measure the span to the north gate and the granary. His thumb rubbed slow on the gate bar, felt the hollow worn by seasons. Mara moved half a step beside him, chin forward, voice low, flat. They follow us for the water papers. Eyes unblinking, wooden ring on her finger turned half. The notch showed, then hid. June tightened her strap. Cloth rasped on iron loop, short scritch. On the seam, a pinhead wax spot, flattened like pressed by a thumb. She leaned, swept it into the stitch. Eyes, children keep heads down. Mara nodded. She pulled the flap 2 notches lower. Her thumb pressed the frayed stitch patched with red wax. She did not peel it. She pressed it flat into cloth. June edged deeper into shade. Fingers tapped strap. 2 quick, 1 slow. Stopped. Her eyes slid porchward, caught the iron chest under the chair. Cat paw prints scattered its base. No human track. They spread in line before the fence. 10 yards, 5 men. 3 horses heaved breath, 2 held. The middleman slackened rein, bowed his head, let the signet show bare in the sun. Deacon Holt. Holt did not smile. He snapped his wrist, the goose ring turned upright. Its rim carried a notch on the right, sharp as a tooth. He spoke like telling of rain by evening. Return the charter to the underground well. Harlan did not move. His hand held the gate bar, his middle finger set in the worn groove made by his years, gray eyes steady. "They bear it." Holt tilted his head, sun cutting his ring. "The red wax mark, my seal." Mara did not change breath. The V-notch of her ring turned inward, hid. Her eyes slid past Harlan's shoulder to the faded pike on the granary, not to Holt. June hitched her bag higher. Strap scraped collarbone, dry rasp. A crumb of wax, flaked from the seam, dropped to her boot, stuck to dry mud. She pressed it down with her toe. No one saw. Holt jerked his chin north. "That wing breaks easy." He narrowed his eyes, gauged the span to the hay barn and porch corner. "The water papers belong to my master. You clutch blind. Return." A rider on the left jerked rein. Horse jumped sideways. He cast his eyes over the north gate, where hinge dried of oil. He smelled hay, cornmeal, sun-baked iron. He counted shadows inside the canvas wagon. Harlan observed as through glass. Each piece placed in its slot. The key ring, the iron chest, the north gate, the powder store in the side shaft, round lock, worn teeth, raven etched. He saw how the wind would carry if flame. He saw where dust would split if horses panicked. "No one on the porch," Harlan said. The words for his own, but his eyes fixed straight on Holt. Holt leaned. "I don't ask for coat layers. I ask for paper." He lifted the signet to his lips, blew away an imagined film. "This seal pressed the edge of the water deed, red wax cut clean on the right. Whoever holds it, resin boil clings to hand." Mara did not draw breath deep. She only shut her jaw one notch. On her wrist, the old welt paled under sun. June scanned the right, along the barn's flank. The north wing, near breaking. The last nail would not take a second strike. Harlan ripped the raven keys from the peg. Iron struck iron clean, sharp as a knife snap. He ran slant toward the powder store in the side shaft. Porch board popped once where grain split. The yellow cat shot from chest shadow, cut across his feet like an arrow. The round lock of the side shaft baked hot. The second tooth slid into groove, no fit. He switched hands, reversed wrist, found the third tooth with a small nick near base. Fit. He snapped. Lock opened with one dry, short crack. Saltpeter stung his nose, raw. Wood of the crate split, its sides smeared with black wax, crumbled like soot. Harlan yanked a slow-match bundle, bit it, spat a strip. He drew a flask, poured a thin trail onto hay near the barn. "Back," he said, not loud, but the sound struck bone. Mara did not ask. She dropped the canvas lower, jerked her head for the child to crawl back. Her wooden ring turned, the V-notch hid in palm. She gripped the canvas seam, pulled tight. June froze one beat, her eyes like the well's surface. Her hand raised the cloth bag, held to belly. She glanced at Holt's signet, then to the raven beak on Harlan's keys as he strode past. Light flared off the bent tooth at the edge, glinted like a comma. Holt caught the meaning, his face darkened. "Don't be mad, Pike." He dug heels, wheeled his horse. Two men on the left widened arc, aiming angles for Harlan's hand. Harlan struck a match. The head hissed sulfur-sharp, green. He set it to the slow match. Flame crawled like a white worm, biting the cord. He tossed powder into the oil-soaked hay, eyes still on the north wing leaning. The hay flamed first, cloth soaked in spirits. Fire climbed the barn edge, licked beams, ran rope lines strung old. A pressed blast of powder followed, thumped the chest. Fire wall reared, shoved hot wind out across fence. Horses screamed sideways. One reared, its eyes showed white before hooves touched earth. A rider slammed shoulder, gun slipped. Black smoke dragged a thick strip, slid across the pipe name on the gable, swallowed, stroke by stroke, left char husk. Wind came sudden, but followed the firewall, sucked north. The north wing need not break. It shrank in heat. Boards creaked like teeth ground, then buried itself under black ash. In the short quiet between blasts, Harlan's throat clenched, not from smoke, because he saw his winter topple, bundle by bundle. He saw his name swallowed. He heard scatter. He spurred rein, waved flank. Two men cut wide. Their shadows tore the fire into warped pieces. He angled east for the stable, but heat slapped, horses balked, nostrils scorched. A nail popped from beam, rang in the yard, red hot. It landed by Harlan's feet, scorched earth. Harlan did not shift. He slid the key ring into his coat pocket in one short move, like sealing a vow. Smoke curled round heads, ash fell on hair, saltpeter stung with sweat, seared throat. Amid chaos lay a thin silence, slit clean like a knife edge, silence of decision set. Harlan turned to the yard. His gray eyes did not seek Holt. They sought the porch table, where the morning cup still held its salt ring. He thought of nights without hay, of hunger season, and did not change. Flames pushed Holt's men back, forced them to form anew. One snatched a cudgel, hammered at the north wing latch, hoping a break, but heat rebounded. He yelled, dropped it. His horse stumbled, hind legs cracked the brace, collapsed on a knee. Holt lifted face, drew smoke, spat. His ring glowed red, then dimmed. His eyes crossed Mara June Harlan, stopped one beat at Harlan's coat where the keys had just gone. A section of barn roof crashed, thunderous. The firewall rose to Holt's neck. He jerked rein, wheeled west, spat a curt line. "I'll be back." Harlan stood in the yard, his back burning as if a hand pressed it. His name on the gable gone. Only a black scar cracked like earth. In the hush after blast, a faint sound slipped into his ear. The keys in pocket touched, whispered. He looked down at his hand, thumb still stained with faint red wax, drawn thin like a line. He wiped it on his coat, left a dark streak. Mara shut her eyes one beat, opened, laid hand on the child's shoulder. June did not blink. She watched the firewall consume, watched Holt's notched ring gone, then looked at her bag strap, a red-black thread caught under nail. She snapped it, dropped. Smoke drifted. Ash fell like salt. Sun bent head elsewhere. The well still trickled. The firewall stood, split the ranch in two. One side living, one side paid. No one said loss. No one said paper. All heard it. At ears' floor, at throat's floor. Choked. Children's voices rose inside the canvas. High, thin, then muffled as if a hand closed over. Ash fell on Mara's hair, gray flecks clinging to the black braid, not dropping. She did not brush them. Harlan coughed rough. The cornmeal bowl down, the paste shuddered and stilled. The wooden ring on her middle finger turned half around, the V-notch hid in her palm. June hugged her cloth bag to her belly. Strap pressing collarbone left a thin white mark, then gone. Her fingers no longer tapped. She looked through the north fence, her eyes stopped on the stone pile, where someone would soon slip in. Holt balked at fire. Two men pulled horses back behind stone. Iron shoes scraped gravel, threw sparks. One man slapped a wet cloth over his horse's face. Its eyes rolled white. Mara stepped to Harlan. No question. She tore a strip from her skirt's lining, twisted it, bound his hand. Blood-soaked, warm red, but did not flow. The wooden ring brushed the stain, left a faint arc, then slid on. She pulled one more turn. Harlan did not look at the bandage. He shifted stance, back shielding the wagon canvas. His gun rested in his right hand, left empty. The Raven keys not there. His coat pocket flat. A fleck of ash fell on his lips' corner. He licked it, salty. His eyes went to the trough lock, round, still wet, teeth worn. Someone else had touched another lock while fire rose. He kept silent. A wind turn came. Smoke whipped into Holt's face. Horses coughed, stepped back half a pace. Harlan raised the barrow. Short span. 2 shots. The first hit the fence post. Splinters cut across the left rider's eye. He flinched by reflex, lost his aim. The second tore the rein of the man beside. Leather split, brown strap flapped, horse bucked, mouth foamed. 2 men slipped from the fence, drifted behind stone. Mara dropped her hand in a clean signal. Gravel at the right wing sprayed wide. The others flinched by instinct, broke line, lost formation. She shifted stance, pressed canvas over children, face unmoved. June turned half her body, stepped into Wells' shade. She lowered weight into her toe, stood firm. Her eyes caught angles from behind stone, counted beat again. Smoke thick. Sun broken. Holt's gun cracked blunt. Chase through haze, slow. Harlan tilted his head an inch. The bullet passed his ear. He answered with a shot into stone. Chipped edge, black dust spilled. A man screamed. Short. His horse stumbled. Knees slid. Body struck a broken post. Holt clenched teeth. The signet on his hand burned red once in smoke, then died. The yard stretched wider. Heat withdrew a yard. Children's voices dropped. Adults drew new breath. Their eyes followed Harlan, thin, straight. Harlan stepped back to the porch half a pace to reload. The gun lock opened. Brass shells fell, clattered on steps. Smoke striped through slats, wove diagonal. The iron chest gaped. Smear clung at the chest edge, stretched into a small leaf, followed the iron's grain. He raised his finger to lips. Silent, tasteless. His eyes searched the step for heel marks. Dust clung, smooth, no deep print, only a yellow cat hair snagged on chair bolt. June came behind, breath quick, her fingers stilled, bag pressed close. Seam puffed one notch, single red stitch. A speck of wax sat at its corner, glossy like an ant's eye. Mara stood one step back, not on the porch. Her wooden ring pressed into blood on the bandage, left a smear, brown-red, dried fast. She looked at the chest one beat, then turned her eyes to the yard.
The sun on as near as eye, where the fort and our forth to all follow. The serious emotions and the polish of the existence in the one of the probrits on the earth, of each ad of an underest, a not on ap, to black on sin.
Harlan lifted the lock, weighed it, its weight true, a small, fresh score cut across the groove made by something hard. He looked up, met June's eyes. His chest caught half a beat, as if a stone lodged in throat, choked. Sound outside fence blurred a moment, Holt shouting, horses stamping, stones kicked. But in the porch only breath. The click of brass leaving chamber had stopped. Harlan set the lock on the step, flat. Groove faced up, round like an extinguished red eye. He did not ask who, did not ask when. He rose, shoulders slipped through smoke, gray eyes cold. He raised his gaze through haze to horizon. A lone dust line cut north. A rider broke without command. That streak held, ran straight, crossed sage, vanished behind rock. Mara lowered her head. No explanation. Ash clung to her braid. Another fleck stuck, held fast. She pulled the flap tighter, placed her hand on the child's head. Her eyes did not look north. June stepped onto the porch step, hem brushed wood. A fine strand of her hair caught on the raven hook, fixed beside the step where the tin wash cup hung. The beak held the strand one beat, glinted in sun, then released.
The sun on as your eyes eye of the fort on sun. The surest emotions and the polish of the existence, all and under us follow. The sun on as your eyes eye of the probrits on sun.
The strand fell on the step, lay beside the cracked wax smear. Harlan did not pick it up. He slipped past June's shoulder, set his hand to close the empty chest. Iron lid shut, hollow thud. Handle skewed, his finger eased it straight. Outside the fence, Holt gathered horses, set another line. The wind turned again, smoke thinned. The sun stretched every shadow long. The windmill groaned once, stuck in a notch. Harlan looked at the ground before the porch. Heel marks shallow, open, about to shade. Ground would cool. Tracks would hold. He stooped, picked shells from the step, dropped them in pocket. Metal on metal faint, like words curling in the gut. The lone dust line stretched farther, then swallowed into hill. Yard silence settled one notch deeper. No one spoke paper. No one spoke keys. Both words sat here, between the empty chest and the raven hook still warm. Harlan lowered his eyes. June's strand of hair lay on the step beside the wax smear. Two thin lines parallel. He straightened, his shoulders weighted by half-burnt fire. Beyond, Holt dropped his hand, reset the ring. Horses snorted short. A burnt blade of grass drifted across, spun 3 times, dissolved. Men and flame swapped places. The next fuse waited somewhere in the hush. Pale morning, light thin as wet paper pressed on the ranch. Smoke still low. The smell of saltpeter mixed with dead straw lodged in throats. Harlan walked from porch to well yard. Boot heels knocked twice. The second step still cracked. The yellow cat slid out from beneath, quiet. Tail brushed a thin dust line. It sniffed air, flicked a speck of ash off its whisker. Mara had the fire rebuilt. Water in the tin pot rippled. Ash rested white in her braid. She did not brush. The wooden ring lay face up, V-notch idle, turned once, stopped. June stood by the well, coarse gray apron tied at her hip. She bent to wash hands. Cold water slid through thin fingers, dropped in strings into the black trench. Ash stuck on her freckles. She scraped each fleck with her thumbnail. Slow, exact. Harlan said nothing. He walked to the dish line, halted half a beat by June's apron. The apron bulged at pocket. The pocket's edge darkened. The faint resin scent under smoke. He reached, no permission. His finger hooked the pocket seam, pulled. The raven keys rose from cloth. The carved wood blackened by smoke. Faint red wax smeared at the beak's neck. 5 iron keys spotted with ash. One bent tooth. June did not step back. She straightened, her eyes held level with Harlan's chest. No tears. She only lifted a finger, brushed more ash off her freckled cheek. The fleck fell into the well, vanished. The bag strap shifted half an inch, rasped dry. Mara watched slant. Her eyes moved from the raven beak, the trough's edge, at the spot where yesterday the lock's groove had scraped. In the cloth's weave lay a speck red, faint as blood. Wax. Wind rose a notch. The windmill turned slow, moaned once. The old rope in the north wing flipped like a lip mid-word. Harlan did not ask why. He gripped the keys in his left. His right straightened June's apron, returned it to her hip, set its bulge exact. One of her brown hairs clung to the raven beak, glowed faint. He plucked it, laid it in her palm. June closed her hand, did not look down. The child in the canvas peeked out, saw the keys, pulled back. The smell of cooled cornmeal fell to the dirt, thin as damp paper. Harlan turned away. He walked to the porch. His shadow passed the shut chest. His foot stopped a notch at the step still stained with broken wax. He lifted his boot over it like stepping past a mark, did not tread. The house cooled a little, no more night fire, only the smell of char in the curtains. On the table, the old coffee cup still held its salt ring, rim stained with smoke. Harlan's dried blood print crossed it, cracked like earth vein. Window shadow cut into 4 warped panes, the lowest across the table edge. Harlan set the raven keys in that pane, not square, tilted slight, enough for the beak to aim at the chest. The wax smear left a rice grain spot on the wood. Mara stood at the door, cloth in hand. She did not step across the sill. Her eyes passed over the keys, stopped one beat at the bent tooth, then lifted to the skewed frame on the wall. She straightened it with one finger. Frame square, picture still. June stood outside the porch looking in. Her shadow reached the table leg, not the surface. She still held the bag, strap scratched a line on her neck. She blinked once, slow. No one said betrayal. No one said a word. Harlan pulled a chair, sat, his left shoulder lowered by the bandage. His thumb rolled the wax fleck on the table, pinched it into thread, left it. The thread did not break. Resin boiled true. He opened the drawer, took the stub pencil, drew a short line on the table's edge beside the wax dot. Not a letter, not a number, a mark, carved into wood's memory. The windmill outside groaned one turn. Old cogs gnawed, shook, then locked. The sound stuck in its throat, choked. No more wind. Only sunlight slashed across the floor like a thin blade. A fly drifted, circled the keys, landed on the bent tooth, rested one beat, then left. Mara set the cloth on the rack. Water strands dropped even. 3 drops, stop. 2 drops, stop. She looked out to the yard with a hay tongue pressed and pulled back. He set his hand over half the wax dot. His fingers stopped, wrist vein pulsed. Outside the door, Deacon Holt was gone. Only tire crunch on gravel far off. A thin rumble like a man running on soles of foam. The ranch held its breath. Everything waited for a nod from someone not standing here. No one nodded. Evening fell. The shadow of the burnt barn stretched to the window. Sky color slid from white to honey to lead. The north gate showed in 2 halves, one light, one dark. Harlan went there. The keys still lay on the table inside. He did not take them, his hands empty. His chest held a word, wanting out, but not out. At the north gate he stopped. The bar was down. Bar outside, locked from outside. Metal surface colder than the wood around. The keyway scored with a fresh scratch, fine as pen stroke. He touched it. Thin resin clung in the groove, not thick, just enough. That smell from the keys this morning. He stood still one beat, his throat dry. He turned back to the house, into the room. The raven keys still where they were. Beak at the chest, bent tooth outside. Harlan lifted them. Metal on skin cold as night. Back to the north gate he pressed the key. Bent tooth scraped, gave a short rasp. He turned his wrist a notch, drove deeper. Click. The latch gave. The gate opened. At the gate's edge, a smear of red wax flattened into the grain. Beneath, a fine brown hair stretched across like a web. It did not ride wind. No wind now. It lay still. Harlan did not touch. He stepped through, looked north. A dust line trailed from the ranch, one straight line, cut from the earth like writing, ended. It vanished into the sage. No circle back. No head turned. He returned, drew the gate shut. The bar dropped inside, soft, no sound. He carried the keys back to the table. Inside, sun gone, the salt mark glared once, then faded. His dried blood print deepened brown, edges lifted white. The raven keys lay between, split like a blade. Beak on the pencil mark he had cut at noon, wax on the salt ring. Mara stood in the door, hands loose. She looked at keys, then the window where the last sky framed 4 panes. She said nothing. The wooden ring on her fingers stopped turning. June stood 2 paces off, back to a post, the freckles on her face thick with ash. She hitched the bag strap to its old angle, hands steady, eyes fixed on the keys. Not asking, not giving, only still. The windmill outside did not turn. Dead, rope jammed at cog. No one touched. No one said betrayal. Only silence, heavy as wet earth pressed to the chest. And at the edge of the ranch where sage closed, a night bird beat wings once and fell quiet. In the end, only the raven keys lay on the table between salt ring and blood print. Wax clung to the beak, one tooth bent. The north gate had been locked from outside. The dust line had gone. What remained was not gunfire, but a hole cut exact to a key. Between the right to keep water and the right to live, who betrayed whom first? The one who burned a barn to save lives, or the one who bent a tooth to open a private way? What winter can a wax fleck buy? And what is a name above the porch worth when fire blows through? If it were you, standing on that porch, would you hang the keys back, put them away, or break them for good? Say one word, not to comfort anyone, only to know where your own line runs.